Here we go. Your job is to memorize this entire table. There are 15 items. This is what I've always been teaching since 2014, and it works. All the kids always know this, and I know in the exams who've learnt it and used it. It's a hand method. All right, so part of it you can find in video, and the next part is only me. Okay, so only I teach this other one. But let's start here. Whichever hand you want to use, doesn't matter. I'm using my left hand, but left to right. Okay, so you got your hand method. I want you to think about your 5 fingers as your 5 special angles. You got 0, 30 degrees, 45, 60, then 90. So I'm going to write here 0, 30, 45, 60, 90. So if I follow that, this is currently my thumb. Okay, and then this is my pinky over here. Okay, yeah, no. So, this is my hand. Doesn't matter which hand you use as long as you're going from left to right. Okay? Now, I do normally tell the students to, when they do it, they can use their pen and write on their finger, but you need to get used to the radians. So, 0, notice that the denominators get smaller. So, pi and 6, pi and 4, pi and 3, pi and 2. So, if it helps you, degrees get larger, radians get smaller. Okay? Now, this is how it works. This only works for sine and cosine for now. I'm going to show you another one for tan. Now, imagine in the palm of your hands there's a rule. This is the only rule you need to memorize. Root over 2. So root of something over 2. How does this work? I'll show you. With just this diagram here, you memorize these 2 columns. Using this technique, you know all 2 columns. So, how do you do this? Say I want to do sine of 30 degrees. Okay, so which finger is my 30 degrees right now? Based on the diagram? The index. So I drop the index finger. Notice I wrote the sine on the left and cos on the right. Sine is the number of fingers on the left-hand side and cos is the number of fingers on the right-hand side. So when I drop down to 30 degrees and I'm looking for sine of 30, I'm asking how many fingers on the sine region. So how many fingers on the sine region? 1. So I want you to write. So think in your mind, you'll be putting root of 1 over 2. Now root of 1 over 2 is half. You can do the same for the next one. So if I wanted to find sine of 45 degrees or sine of pi and 4, which one's my 45 degree finger? My root finger, my middle finger. So I drop it down. Okay, sine is the number of fingers on the left-hand side. Cos is the number of fingers on the right. So number sine, how many sine fingers do I have? 2. So in my mind, it's root 2 on 2. That is the same thing as 1 on root 2. The only difference is one's rationalized denominator and the other one isn't. Okay, in year 12, we generally like this one better. Okay, but you can use 1 on root 2. Sometimes they use it to simplify, but both are the same. So that means you can answer all of the sine questions using your fingers. Say sine of 90 degrees. All right, so sine of 90. Yeah, 90, which is my pinky finger. If I drop down my finger, how many fingers do I have for sine? 4. So root of 4 is 2. 2 divided by 2, 1. That's the answer that you got over here. Okay? If you did sine of 0, 0 is your thumb. Okay, so your thumb. If I drop down the thumb and I say how many fingers on the left-hand side of it? 0. Root of 0 is 0. So here we go. Root of 0 over 2. That's still 0 over 2, which equals 0. So that helps you. In one rule, you learnt all of the sine column. And you can do the same thing for cos. Cos is just the number of fingers on your right-hand side. I still do it till this day, and I still see my year 12s back at uni high in the exam or SAC. They used to sit there with their fingers. But eventually you don't use your fingers, you just kind of memorize where they are. Okay? Now, one last rule for today. Before you walk out, you should be able to memorize tan as well. Here, listening. This rule here only works for sine and cosine. So you're missing the last third. How do you do tan? So you can find the first one online on a video, but the next one is only me. Okay, so the next one I made it up myself, and it works as well. I just followed the same principles, and I was able to figure it out. Same thing, everything's the same. It's still 0, 30, 45, 60, 90. The only difference is the rule. It's root of number of sine fingers over number of cos fingers. So we know tan is sine over cos. This is my next rule. So my third rule, how do you do tan? Everything's still the same. The only difference for tan is you're counting number of sine divided by number of cos. So whatever's on the left side divided by the number of fingers on the right side. Okay, so let's say tan of 45 degrees. If I drop 45 degrees, which is my middle finger, how many sine fingers? I've got 2. How many cos fingers? I've got 2. So if I use this rule, it's sine is 2 fingers, cos is 2 fingers. That ends up being root of 1, which is 1. So tan of 45 degrees is 1. If I did tan of, say, 30 degrees, which one's my 30 degree finger? Index. I drop it down. How many sine fingers do I have? 1. How many cos fingers do I have? Root of 1 I know, which is 1. Root of 3 I don't know. So the answer is 1 on root 3.
Oh, so I usually it's like the same method for the first bit, but for tan you just flip out with your hand to the other side, and you just so if you're doing sine 30, tan 30, you do this one, then you flip it upside down and just 1 over surd 3.
Oh, that's another one too. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I actually haven't seen that one. That's true.
Surd 1 over surd 3, which is just 1 over surd 3.
Yeah, that works too. There you go. Yeah, that's a good one. But there you go. So that allows you, with those 2 rules, or using what Matt just said, if you flipped your hand over, that also makes sense. Using your left hand sine finger over cos finger, it's the same idea. So those 2 rules allows you to know all 15. Okay, or you can memorize it in any other way. I don't really mind, but you have to know all 15 exact values. Okay, that's your goal. All right. So in the next session, I will be calling you out each and individually, and I may say, what's sine of pi and 4? What's cos of 45 degrees? What's sine of, 30 degrees? And then I might say to someone, what's sine of pi and 6? You need to know radians and degrees. We'll do that every session, okay, until you memorize all of these exact values, and you can do 14E and 14F. Okay, they're very important to move on to the next exercise. So without these, you can't do sketching, you can't solve, which is what the examiners are testing next year. Okay, so you have to get your head around that.